Is it possible to reduce your chances of getting laid off? I would say absolutely, and I'll tell you why. I've sat at the table when the decisions were being made to lay off staff and to choose one person over another. And there are honestly things that you can do that you may not be aware of that can help reduce your chances of getting laid off. Stay tuned, guys. I'm going to go over layoffs, talk about those. It is layoff season right now. I'm going to give you some game on some of the things you can do to prevent yourself from getting laid off this time, and possibly, for sure, hopefully, fingers crossed, next time. Stay tuned, guys. I'll be right back in a second. Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to this video. I really appreciate you guys. You guys know who I am. I don't even have to even say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. My name is Andre Reese.biz. That's right. I'll say it slow for the people in the back in the cheap sheets. Cheap seats. That's right, guys. My name is Andre Reese.biz. And not only do I do taxes, not only do I sell online, retail, I do a whole bunch of other stuff. And as you guys know, I was born with a magnificent gift. Everywhere I look, everywhere I see, everywhere I be, I see tax deductions and business opportunities everywhere. And of course, I encourage you guys to book a consultation with me. $195, get you about an hour of my time. And I'll go ahead and exchange for that hour of time a bucket of game and wisdom. Of course, if you're looking at starting a business, looking at trying to shore yourself up for 2023 before the tax season starts, go ahead and reach out to me, guys. I'm here to help you for sure. And remember, these videos are always for educational purposes only. I'm not a financial advisor or an attorney. As you know, I've never even played one on television before. This is all for fun and games, just a general discussion, you know? It's just fun. We're having fun. We're having conversation. We're talking. We're conversating. That's all we're doing here, guys. Remember, it's for educational purposes only. And of course, always stay tuned until the very end of my videos, because you guys know you always enjoy receiving information on the business ideas and tax deduction ideas that I'm able to come up with. This is not going to be any different at all for you guys. And of course, be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like this video. Subscribe to me and follow me on YouTube for sure, guys. So let's go ahead and jump right into it right now. I know you guys want to hear about the layoff discussion, and we'll go ahead and potentially talk about your chances of reducing yourself. And like I said, if you've been laid off or about to be laid off, your name is already on the list. This may not help you this time, but hopefully you'll be able to get some game to shore yourself up. So next time around, if you're working for a different company and the cycle comes back up again, you'll be in a position that you'll be able to help reduce your chances of getting laid off. And this is a game plan. You know, ultimately, if it's not for this employer, it's for your next employer. And I'll tell you, if the company is going to go under, this may increase your chances of staying around close to the end, where you'll be one of the last people to go. So and if it's a case such as that, where the company's coming to a final demise and the whole thing's shutting down, there's not much you can really do, but you may be able to potentially delay yourself until the very, very end. Now, I'll tell you what, in looking at the layoffs that are happening right now, you can go to websites like layoff.fyi, and there's another one that's out there as well. What they're doing is they're tracking all the different layoffs that are taking place out there right now currently. And on one of the websites, for sure, they're actually allowing employers, you know, in some cases, employers will go ahead and employ and actually list and provide on a Google document list of their employees that are being laid off. You can see what their names are, what departments they worked in, what their preference might be for, you know, remote work or office work or kind of a hybrid situation. You can see other information about what their LinkedIn profile is. And I'll tell you what, the other thing you'll be able to oftentimes find on these lists as well is what series the business is. Are they early funding? Is it a business that was IPO? And all this information is, definitely there and is highly useful. And on the ones that are allowing the employees' names to be available, either they're releasing them or they create a list that allows employees to put their names on there. This helps in the future if people are looking for jobs. Recruiters can go directly and find out who got laid off. But you'll find some fascinating information about those folks that you're going to find on the layoff list. Believe it or not, a lot of these companies are all engineering based, software engineering. They are laying off tons of engineers. I'm telling you, they're canceling projects, they're canceling programs, they're ending business portions, and when they demise those, a whole group of folks will go, including the engineers. And we always know that there is a shortage of STEM individuals, engineers here in the United States. So it draws an interesting look at what's happening if they're going to eliminate, the engineers, which are really the backbone of the company. You're also finding a lot of sales folks are getting released as well. And so if sales are down and then they don't have the need to call on clients as much, they may reduce sales and other support staff that also support the sales department as well. You're seeing tons of those people that are getting laid off. Other support positions throughout the organization, so you'll see tons of those. Administration, you'll see folks that are supporting some of these departments that are handling other types of activities within the company. They're getting laid off. You can see somebody that might be responsible for handling all the marketing content, social media, those kind of things. Those kind of people are getting laid off, left and right. You're also going to find people that might be responsible for, doing some of the funner things for the employees, even some of the events, etc. Those kind of folks are getting laid off left and right. And then finally, what I've noticed that are being significantly laid off, and one thing we say real quick, sales, marketing, they're going to be interchangeable here. There's a lot of those folks that are being let go. The final one, of course, you would assume that if they're letting go of people, they're not going to be hiring people for a while. There's hiring freezes. They're not going to have the need to have HR and recruiting folks either. So you're going to find all levels within the H&R department. They're going to be laid off as well. And so if you take a look, like I said, these are the ones that are getting hit really hard. And one of the things I've noticed in the finance profession, finance, accounting, I see a few people here and there that are getting laid off, but not many. But those are pretty much the majority of folks that I'm seeing that are getting laid off. Now, why am I even qualified to even talk about this topic here today about, layoffs and what you can do? In my life, I think my very first job once I got out of college, I started working at a .com. And I got a degree in accounting. I got, and that's more or less has been my career track. So I have accounting, finance on my degree hanging up on the wall, and so that's where I kind of started working my way up through the ranks. And I think the very first business that I saw that went through a complete cycle, and businesses go up and down, boom and bust. So during the .com boom, I remember the first company I worked for out of college, it was a .com company. So a couple guys got an idea when they were in the garage one day that they can maybe potentially cash in on the idea of being able to sell online, because it was fairly new back in the 2000s, early around that time, 1999. And they created their own .com. And the business moved from being inside the garage all the way to a warehouse in San Francisco where you can actually look down and see, the floors beneath you, and eventually got torn down. And then moved to the downtown area, and we were on one of the top floors of a skyscraper, with venture capital funding, etc. And then once the .com bust happened and the balloon popped, everything started to unwind, and funding dried up. There was no money coming in. And then, of course, folks got let go, laid off, things reduced. So I've seen that cycle, as I know a lot of you probably have as well, but the one thing I was able to see was within that 1 year period of time, I was able to see a full cycle of a business from seed, garage, to high rise, building downtown, to bankruptcy, so to speak. Run out of money, run out of funding, nothing to give the employees on the way out. Just take the stuff off your desk. That's your severance, kind of a thing. And along the way, as I've continued to work, I worked my way up to, and at that level originally before, I wasn't involved in anything at all. I was just there just to push paperwork and, provide documents for those that were up above me. But as I continued to work in my career, I kind of climbed up, went as high as, the director of accounting, HR. I think one of my last titles was the director of accounting, finance, and HR. And so along those progressions there, working at these different companies, I have been involved in the layoff discussions. I have actually led the layoff discussions. And you say, well, how do you lead the layoff discussions? Part of your responsibility, if you're working in finance, is to alert management when things aren't going well. And so if you're starting to notice that the revenue is starting to die off, expenses are increasing, it's your job to say, hey, this is what's going on. Let's put our heads together and try to figure out if we can solve it. And if we can't, you have to either have enough cash runway to keep going. But what typically happens is businesses will reduce their headcount. That's one of the easiest things to do, along with other costs. So like I said, I've been there to lead those discussions. And I've been involved in businesses that were dying, businesses that had temporary and permanent financial issues. I've worked for nonprofits that had funding issues, where they relied upon the general public and grants to be able to raise money. And then when those sources of money, dried up, it affects the business, And so I've been there to point out these situations as they have occurred. And I've essentially sat there at the table with the spreadsheet and said, this is how much we have to cut. How are we going to get to that? And as we're going through the budget, we're going through headcount. I'm the one that's saying, let's put these numbers on the spreadsheet and see how close we get to the targets. And so, like I said, I'm at least qualified enough to be able to talk to you about what I've seen here. And of course, these businesses have been everything from, service-based businesses to nonprofit businesses in my career. I've never really worked for a product-based business. Everything has kind of been along those lines. Now, like I said, when it comes to leading the layoff discussions, part of that is sounding alarm and alerting management. And so when that happens, it's hush hush, and so what you'll typically start to realize is that there's starting to be a lot more meetings. Meetings are running a lot longer. The spirit of what's happening within the company will start to change a little bit. Some of the perks that may be there, they may dry up. You may start to notice that positions kind of go unfilled. So these are kind of some of the initial signs that you might notice when layoffs are coming. So you want to definitely get yourself into position. And so, and when you're sound the alarm, of course, you usually come with layoff targets, and then, like I said, it's a matter of finding the people and the services or the different things that are available to try to get to those targets. And I've witnessed, during these lead discussions, battles that have taken place between management and departments as people try to fight to keep and justify what they have under them, and so I've seen some ugly things that have happened. I've seen some crazy discussions, but these are all things I've seen firsthand. And coming out of these meetings and having to swear to secrecy, a blood oath, so to speak, when you walk out, and then to go back out into the rest of the company and walk around and try to function like nothing's going on. Those are very interesting things, and they can become very, very stressful for sure. And so what I found, guys, is as I've gone through these processes, and I think most companies are the same, everything is ran by people. Everybody has their own opinion. I'll tell you what, cuts that take place, that happen, are not always fair. So it's not like that they're going to take a number, $5 million, and divide that up over 5 departments and each give them $1 million to cut. It doesn't happen like that at all. And so it's a matter oftentimes of how well the manager is running that department, other situations and issues that kind of circle right around there. But like I said, the cuts ultimately are not fair. And then the cuts, in addition to that, are also subjective. And so when I talk about cuts, I'm not only just talking about, cutting, insurance or, vendor cost. I'm talking about people here, And so, like I said, the cuts and who they choose to lay off oftentimes are not fair. Oftentimes you try to be objective about that, but there's a lot of subjectivity that's involved in who they decide to choose for layoffs. And as these discussions are kind of going on and taking place and occurring, it's oftentimes a list. Just imagine that a company only has 20 people and they have to make a decision to lay off everybody over a period of time. They will more or less come up with the people that are the most expendable are going to be first, and then the ones that they don't want to get rid of, want to hang on as long as possible, are going to be last at number 20. So if they're in this round, they're only going to let 3 people go. They're going to go for the first, second, and third. The fourth person that's on the list is next. So if they have to release additional 2 people, so the people oftentimes that are on 4 and 5 will be the next one to go. And so there may be some adjustments that occur. There may be some discussions that take place. And I'm trying to be slightly cryptic without giving away anything that I've ever done before, but giving you guys kind of, the overall gist of how these things work. And so if they get to the point where they're going to let number 5 go, there may be an incredible discussion that takes place. And there may be some choice words, and they may decide to move number 5 to number 7, but then move the other 2 up. Then those individuals will be the next ones that will get laid off. And so, like I said, there is some subjectivity, and I've noticed that there is favoritism, and everybody knows this within any company that you work for. There's always favorites. And where does favoritism come from? Sometimes it's based upon things that you don't know about, that I don't know about. That can be relationships that take place outside of the company that you're unaware of, and it can be a physical thing. It cannot be a physical thing. It can be types of soft nepotism. That can be another issue with favoritism as well. Then also too, you'd be surprised. Sometimes employees have things on managers, and those managers realize that the employees have things on them that can cause them to get laid off or fired themselves. So the managers oftentimes will protect those employees and then allow them to be passed over because of what they may have, and so those people are oftentimes considered to be extremely loyal, and they get rewarded by being pushed way down the list. And like I said, these things don't always happen, but I've seen them happen. I've sat at the table and I've seen these discussions. I've seen things myself around the companies and the businesses that I worked in that translate into the layoff discussions. Whether they're said or not, they do have a say on what happens. So it's not always the old people that have been there the longest or the people that have been the most tenured with the company. Sometimes they get let go. Sometimes folks that have been there a medium amount of time let go. Sometimes folks that have been there only a short period of time won't get let go. It all really depends upon what happens. Then also too, another thing that happens during these discussions and the rankings is if there are issues that you may potentially have with a particular manager, the manager may use this as an opportunity to sacrifice you and get rid of you. So if there's 2 people in a department and they have to get rid of one of them, they're going to get rid of the one that provides the least benefit to them. Then they're going to fight for the second one that stays behind. And so if both of those employees are the bane of their existence, they're going to make a decision to determine which one provides them the least headache. If their skills are going to be similar, then they'll oftentimes go ahead and sacrifice that person. So this is kind of where the subjectivity comes in there. And then, of course, there are managers and there are department leaders that are the strongest in the company, and they may be the ones that have established themselves as being a significant reason why the company exists. And if they walk, everything falls apart. So in those situations, as you can imagine, they're going to carry the most weight. So they may always, oftentimes, generally, go after other departments that may have a weaker head and sacrifice their people, and so that has a lot to do with it as well. So those are kind of some of the things, like I said, that I've witnessed, kind of along the way. And I'll tell you, small things that you do can save you from a round. It can push you to a next round. And so if you imagine this, if you're the person, the guy or girl in the company that brings Krispy Kreme donuts every Friday, and everybody relies upon you bringing the donuts, and you may not be the best employee, but you have a great attitude, you're always there on time, and you bring donuts in, you'd be surprised. I've heard people at the table say, you know what, don't let them go because they do this. And it can be something as simple as bringing donuts in, kind of go ahead and fill in the blank yourself. But those kind of things will help protect you as well, and maybe push you deeper into the rounds of future cuts that may be coming. So kind of, my final thoughts here when it comes to layoffs. I think the thing you got to really do is you have to really focus on trying to protect yourself. When you're at work, you want to do I think the biggest trend that came out towards the end of the pandemic, which has been eliminated now, was quiet quitting. So anybody that went out of their way to quiet quit, to only focus and function within the limited scope of their job, it's easy to get rid of those people. You don't want to be one of those people at all. You want to do the opposite of quiet quitting. I think it's best, and even me, I have done this before, where I have completely embedded myself within the business. And so you want to have that mentality of going there and functioning as if you own the business. You want to know as much as you can. You want to do as much as you can. You want to be reliable, and you want to be one of the people that if you are gone, things will suffer, and it allows them to choose somebody else. That doesn't mean you're not going to get laid off. When things get real bad and everything hits the fan, you may be in later rounds in the future, but at least if you're completely embedded right now, in the early rounds, it's going to prevent you from getting, laid off because you're critical. So you want to always have that mindset when you go to work, that you're going to be doing everything you can do to really embed yourself in the business, gain as much knowledge, have control of key critical business processes that nobody else can do, and that they even scramble when you go on vacation for a week or two to try to figure out how to keep things going. That's where you want to definitely put yourself. You want to always constantly be adding value. And so adding value is bringing donuts in, but also adding value to your employer is being willing to step up, do additional work, and if you have to take on new tasks, be the one at the moment to jettison tasks that really provide no value, let them push those out to somebody else. So you're always constantly cycling through the most cutting edge stuff that's happening, with the business. And if you're willing to step up and add value in those areas, you're going to be much, much better off when it comes to skipping, the layoffs. And you want to be, like I said, this is kind of what we talked about. You always want to be a knowledge leader and a process leader. And so when they're thinking about doing something, changing something, creating something, you want to say, hey, you want them to say, hey, let me ask such and such what his opinion is. If we implement this, how will it affect what we have already? And so a lot of managers And I'll tell you, this is a good example. A lot of managers that run engineering departments, don't know how to code, but they can sit on top of an engineering group and they can, they're more than able to get the people underneath them to do what needs to be done. So you want to always be that person that engineering manager that doesn't have the engineering understanding goes to and that relies upon to fill in the gaps that they don't particularly have. So that's always a great way to, kind of go through and, become a process leader and gain incredible knowledge. You want to always display leadership. So, and I'm telling you, even if you're working at AM/PM Mini Market, and you're on the cashier, you're a cashier just ringing up stuff, ringing up Red Bulls and Cheetos. You want to try to display leadership at those times. Make suggestions to the management. Hey, I see things are slowing down right now. It might be smart to go ahead and send John on his break. That way I can go on my break afterwards. And he's like, oh yeah, okay, cool. So that's an example of leadership. And you can expound that on up the ladder as you get into something more geared towards your career. And you want to, like I said, you want to make it very difficult for them to get rid of you. And I've done this before myself, where I've gone to businesses and I've gotten to the point where I've ran so much stuff ran through me that if they wanted to walk me out the door, put all my stuff in a box, they weren't going to survive. And you can do that when you're in finance or accounting, you're in charge of the budget, you're running payroll, taking care of those type of things that are critical business processes. You can do that. So you want to always try to, whatever you do, make yourself so valuable that it's very difficult to get rid of you. And like I said, in the final thoughts here, you want to be the person that goes above and beyond your way and does something even as simple as, bringing donuts in. It goes a long way. And I'm telling you, and it doesn't have to be donuts. It can be a lot of other small, minor things that people remember you by that no one else is doing. When it comes time for them to make a decision on where you're going to fall on the layoff list, they'll keep pushing you, towards the bottom. So if you got laid off this time and, you were one of the first people to go, there's not much you can really do to save yourself. If you're in a company right now that's going through layoffs, there may not be a whole lot you can do to save yourself. You can change your immediate attitude. You can make an effort and put energy in to try to do things and be a lot more of a value to the business. But these kind of things take a while to really embed yourself. So if you are able to survive the layoff rounds, keep all this stuff in mind as you try to build your persona so that when the meetings take place again in the future, that you're one of the people that are considered for layoffs, but you're pushed down into future rounds. And like I said, if the business is going to go out of business, there's not much you can really do to prevent being laid off. It might even be better to be let off earlier. That way you can, maybe get a severance, because a lot of times when the company's gone, there's not much left that's over. You might just be taking the stuff off your desk as your severance package, but at least if you get let go early on, if the manager maybe comes to you and says, hey, we may not survive here, I can let you off now. I know we got some money left. You want your manager always to kind of be looking out for you, to feel like you've helped them out along the way. And they're also helping you out along the way, and they're going to do you this favor. And this is not always the case. Not every manager is like that. I've had bad managers in my life along the way. I've had some great managers, but hopefully, things will kind of work out there. And, final thoughts here. These are the final thoughts. All layoffs right now are not similar. So if you do get laid off or you're in the process, or your company's going through layoffs, I would recommend to you guys to go ahead and take the time to shore up your skills. And so if you're focusing on, if you're working in HR, it may not be a bad time to learn how to code. Because I'll tell you, all layoffs right now are not equal. And so if you got laid off as an engineer, you still have opportunity to find engineering jobs. Engineering jobs have been in short supply. Even Elon, when he laid off all the engineers from Twitter, he laid off the ones that he had because he felt that they weren't contributing to the greater good of the company. He still needs engineers. So he's looking to find people that are dedicated to take Twitter to the next level. So there's definitely an opportunity there. When you're looking at, if you're working in HR, for example, HR is going to lay off a bunch of people. You're going to get laid off as an HR person. When they start to hire again, HR is not going to come back in droves. And also, too, a lot of the diversity and inclusion positions that have been eliminated, that are being eliminated now during this round, and during this layoff cycle, may not come back at all. And it's going to take a while for them to come back. So once the company gets shored up with engineers, and they may push the hiring responsibility down on the managers instead of a lot of that being handled by HR initially, so they'll do that there. But when it comes to making sure that, like I said, you're less likely to be laid off in the future, focus on, getting out of a particular position that may get laid off a lot now, and try to migrate yourself into something that has greater opportunities on the rebound. So that's always going to be an option and an opportunity, for you there. And then, of course, I'll tell you, one of the things I've noticed really in like the last 2 years, a lot of folks that I've known that have been in finance, been in accounting, they've been in other professions, a lot of them have migrated towards, human resources. So as your career starts to progress along the way, just try to do your best to think big picture about how, if things get real bad, how will that decision of moving into a different type of career path potentially, how that will affect you in the long run. And like I said, layoffs hit differently. HR hits a lot harder than engineering. Sales, at some point when the businesses start to grow again, they'll start to fill out the sales department. So those are some of the things that are options to you. And of course, you got to remember, like I said, every case is different. What I've noticed just upon the lists that have been published, not a lot of accounting and a lot of HR folks have been, not a lot of accounting and not a lot of finance folks have been, let go. So it's reasonable to consider, those things as well. If you from those particular areas and you've migrated over to one that particularly got hit pretty hard in this cycle, consider going back, on the rebound there. And like I said, layoffs.fyi, take a look at the folks that have been laid off and what particular career tracks and groups that they've been involved in. And I'll tell you, ultimately in the end, this always sticks with me no matter where I go. When I got my first finance class and when I was doing my upper division classes for my bachelor's degree, my very first finance class, the very first thing that the guy that was teaching the class said was, your job as finance folks is to do one thing, and that is to enrich the wealth of the shareholders. So along the way, I have done my job to sound the alarm and let folks know that their wealth is to be affected. And if you're the first person to move, the first person to talk about it, oftentimes there's comfort and safety in that for a while, and so you want to use that as a way of protecting yourself no matter what particular career path you're in, so kind of adapt that you're there to do a job and you're there to increase the wealth of the people that own it. And if you can focus on that, you'll be much better off, and you'll get lower and lower and lower on the layoff list. That way, potentially down the road, future rounds, you won't be affected. So that's it, guys. I'll go ahead and wrap it up. I got nothing else to say here. If you were laid off, my heart goes out to you. If you haven't been laid off, you're kind of worried, start working on some of these things now. And worst case scenario, when you get your next opportunity at another company, get in there, roll up your sleeves, and add value, and continue to add value. So if you ever have to go through these things again, you'll be able to reduce your chances of being one of the first people to go. And like I said, if you ever are at the point where the company is starting to lay off a lot of folks, get it together, get refocused, and see if there's anything you can do out there to protect yourself on the way down. If you have to start reaching out to other folks to see what opportunities are available at other companies and where you might monkey branch to, do that. If not, kind of brace for impact, and hopefully you got the ability to get a decent package on the way out, and collect unemployment, and then be able to utilize your time to figure things out until, things start to, grow again. So that's my advice, guys. And as you guys always like to wait, I always have some business ideas that are always tied to these topics. And this is not any different than any other time. So let's go ahead and jump in real quick. There are a number of business ideas that come out of this particular topic. If you have the ability to help folks, this is something great for folks that have an HR background. Start a business that's helping folks, with resumes and cover letters, creating them. You'll be surprised at how many folks are not very good at that. And as the competition starts to increase, if they're dealing with companies that do a lot of scanning, you can help them develop a resume that's going to increase their chances of it being seen. That's always going to be a great business idea. Career coach, that's kind of something that I do here, but I kind of coach people that are looking at becoming business owners. If you have a particular knowledge of, and there's a ton of these guys I see, guys and girls that are on YouTube that are Google engineers, etc., and they've developed these services and these programs that allow you to go from infancy in your career, being able to answer the questions and get through the interviews, all the way to migrating up to senior into management. They're able to coach you. So if you have this type of experience, that's always a business opportunity that you can start. And then, of course, a business opportunity you can always start is start a business. So it can be anything. Doesn't necessarily have to be tied to these particular items here, but those are the two major ones I would say. Career coach, and if you have experience with resumes and cover letters, those are always businesses you can start. And of course, if you start those businesses, you're always going to be able to deduct your home office, cell phone, home internet, mileage, travel, continuing professional education. It's always going to be deductible. So those are some of the things that are available to you. So I don't think I have anything else. Let me just take a drink here. I'll tell you, this orange cream soda, I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's by Henry J. Whitehearts. The root beer is ridiculously delicious, but just wet my whistle real quick. I don't think I have anything else to talk about. So if you guys get a chance, be sure to go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Go ahead and take a chance on me. I got a long enough track record. I got enough stuff that's interesting to listen to. But also go ahead and like this video. Would definitely appreciate that. If you guys have any thoughts or information you want to provide about layoffs that you may have gone through, and talk about some of the subjectivity, some of the favoritism that you may have experienced, go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. That's it, guys. I'll go ahead and wrap everything up, and I am done. Got nothing else to say. But peace. All right, guys, take care. Hey guys, thanks for sticking with me all the way to the end of this video. Visit me directly at andrereese.biz 4 things to do: like, follow, subscribe, hit that bell. Stay safe, guys. Lift the glass to freedom. Stay woke and don't get TikTok. Take care. I will see you guys in the next video.